trading Twitter Spaces in for the Calcio Guys podcast. You know him as SauceGMP on Twitter. Gianmarco joining us for the first time, the Calcio Guys. Adriano Gianni, I'm Nicholas. Gianmarco, how's it going?
Good, man. Thank you, guys, for the invite. Appreciate it.
No problem. It's always good to have an Inter guest because we got, me, the Juve fan, you got Gianni, the Roma, Napoli, Sassuolo, Atalanta, Lazio fan.
Okay, let's relax there.
And then Adriano, the Milan fan. So it's always good to have, a fan of one of the teams that we don't support. But we'll talk about Inter. You just played Roma, so maybe Gianni and Gianmarco could talk plenty of that. But we want to know, as we do with our guests, when you join us for the first time, we want to know, how did you become an Inter fan? Tell us your story with the club.
Yeah, no, it's funny. As a kid, I grew up watching the '94 team. I fell in love with Signori. Actually, everybody liked Baggio. I'm not gonna say I didn't love Baggio, but for some reason, I think of the pace and the fact that he was left-footed and everything. I became a fan, and I didn't want to watch Inter games with my dad. So for a little bit, I was actually a Lazio fan, just to spite him. He got very annoyed with that. Even my grandfather was very bothered by that. So it wasn't really until like maybe 98, 99 that I really started watching Inter with him. And it was something that me and my father really bonded over. And with my grandfather, he passed away in 2000, but we got, I kind of felt like it was a good way to honor his memory and keep that tradition going. And I've been a fan ever since, and through mostly bad times, it feels like, but yeah, still committed somehow. So
that's a beautiful story. Gianmarco, that's why we ask these types of questions, to kind of get a little bit of a background and your love for the game. We're three passionate fans here in Montreal, but to continue to speak to different people from across the pond, from other cities, if it be North America or wherever close to us, it's always a beautiful thing to see. What would you say? I guess obviously the tripleta in 2010 was obviously a special moment, but what was growing up for as long as you've been supporting the team, which is quite a while, and a lot of ups and downs for sure. Any other special moments throughout that time being an Inter fan?
This is probably the pinnacle moment for me, my favorite moment. I'll never forget this game for as long as I live. And it was a few years after my nonno passed away. His birthday is January 9th, and I'll never forget. I woke up a little late for the game. Normally I would watch it with my father on the mornings, and this day, of course, being my grandfather's birthday, I wanted to make sure I was watching it with him. So yeah. I come downstairs though, and Inter's down 2-0 to Sampdoria. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, how are we losing? I think it was I forget if it was 04 or 05, what game it was exactly, but I just couldn't believe it. Kutuzov scores a goal, and he does his little dance in the corner. I'm just shocked. 85th minute, my dad's getting angry. He's throwing things around. He's getting ready to break the controller, and all of a sudden, Obafemi Martins breaks in, scores. It's 2-1. 3 minutes later, Vieri scores. It's 2-2. Stoppage time. I'll never forget. Stankovic. I don't know how he sees this ball coming. He's looking in the sky, but the ball's flying over his head. And he just brings it down for Recoba outside the box, left-footed shot, bottom corner. We win 3-2. I've never seen anything like that in my life. I've never seen a comeback like that. My father's jumping for joy. He's crying. He's like, if your grandfather made this happen, he's yelling like crazy. And it was just a beautiful moment. I really couldn't believe that, and I'll never forget. That's my favorite moment all time. Even probably more than the tripleta, just because of what it meant on that day, and for my father too.
Absolutely beautiful.
And you're just like naming all these players, and it's like, I guess you had the benefit of watching Inter throughout years of just like fantastic players. Is there like one player that you'll say is like your absolute favorite from your lifetime that you've seen play for Inter? Because for example, just in that example, we mentioned Martins and Vieri. Those are two massive names right there and stuff. And then don't forget, there's R9 that also played for Inter. So it's like you can go on and on and on.
There's so many players. But I would say probably my two favorite. Well, for one, definitely Recoba is one of my favorite players. But my favorite player because he was the guy that, to me, when I played growing up, this is a guy I wanted to play like even before he was at Inter. So to see him at Inter was a blessing. But Wesley Sneijder was probably my favorite player. I mean, I love guys who are free kick specialists, and whenever he had the ball at his foot, I felt like it was going to go in the net. So.
Fair enough.
And the power behind it too, right? It was second to none.
Yeah, the power, the accuracy was unbelievable.
This conversation reminds me of a tweet once, like boys could just sit around naming old athletes and just have the time of their life. That's what it is.
Remembering different times and different moments of these players.
You guys remember Hernan Crespo? Oh my god.
Batistuta.
It's crazy. We can't remember what we had for we can't remember what we had for lunch yesterday. Yet Gianmarco remembers who scored against Sampdoria in 0405. But sorry to bring it back down to the bad times for Inter, because we're just on a high for you. But sorry to bring it back down.
Juventino, that's why he wants to bring it back to the bad times.
He wants to bring you on even land.
I get it.
2-1 versus Roma, loss at home on the weekend. I think game in which Inter scored first, DiMarco scored first, continuing his good showing after the Nations League, and then the collapse. I mean, I know it's a one goal. I wouldn't really call it a collapse. It's a comeback win for Roma. It's not really a collapse for Inter.
Yeah.
But just give us your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, I thought for portions of the game, it felt like we kind of had it in control. What I was mostly concerned with, I mean, you can go a few different ways, because I feel like the goal that Patricio gives up is a weak goal. I mean, as much as happy as I am for DiMarco, he's one of my favorite players on the team right now. A competent keeper saves that, and then I'll say the same thing for the goal Dybala scores. I'm kind of tired of Interisti defending Handanovic. I can't defend him anymore. It's way past his expiration date. People are like, oh, but look at the double save he made. I mean, both shots were right at him. I expect a goalkeeper to make that save. And on the goal by Dybala, I won't say it was a very powerful shot. I mean, I think it was good that he was able to hit it off the volley like that, and he was great accuracy. However, to me, Mike Maignan saves that 10 times out of 10. I think Onana maybe 8 times out of 10. I think other goalkeepers really could have gotten behind that. I mean, even his positioning, you see, he kind of stops moving towards the shot. So in my opinion, it really should have just been a 1-0 win for Roma. But that's neither here nor there. And then before the second goal, I was literally typing out the tweet, because my biggest frustration with Inzaghi is he's never proactive. He's always reactive. So when I kind of felt like it was going to be some goal just like that, where, I felt like we had them against the ropes. In my opinion, he should have made some substitutions to kind of keep the pressure up. He waits, and then what happens? Roma goes, takes the lead, and then he all of a sudden makes 4 or 5 substitutions, and it's like, at that point you're too late, man. Like it's very frustrating as an Interista to watch those games, and to know that every loss we've had so far in the league, we've had the lead, and then he waits until it's almost too late, and then that's it. The other teams are able to to capitalize.
You wanted a quote, there it is. And Inzaghi is more reactive than proactive. I actually like that a lot. And
Very true.
Not to fully echo your words, I kind of agree. I just felt like as if it was just a collaboration of Inter just playing, I guess, poorly, and Roma just capitalizing on the opportunities that were given to them. The Dybala goal, yes, Handanovic, he was in a bad position. First of all, I totally agree. But just the fact that Dybala was available on that, like, I know it was a counterattack. I know Spina, had that speed, but just the fact that that threat wasn't recognized, that Dybala was there. Because I mean, it's a volley up in the air. If a defender is aware of his surroundings, you'd be able to track that and and just get it. And I just feel like as if their aerial coverage this game for Inter just wasn't the best. Even the Smalling goal off the set piece, if it wasn't going to be Smaldini, there was probably Pellegrini there ready for it too. Like, there's 2 other players that were available. And Inter got some great chances too. Barella had a great game. Was it him that took the free kick to hit off the crossbar?
No, that was Çalhanoğlu. Yeah.
Okay, Çalhanoğlu. Okay, sorry, my mistake. But nonetheless, these are opportunities that 1 inch lower, and that was in. Patricio was beat. So
The offside goal too.
Yeah, the offside, which I get it. It's a bit weird in my eyes because he's fighting for position there, Dzeko. I don't think he's I get it. By the rules and by the book, okay, his foot is offside. It's offside because when the pass is given to him, he's technically ahead of the defender. But he's fighting for position there. Either I'll take it. I won't complain. I mean, but nonetheless, it's just I just think it was not. I guess it was just a bad day for Inter, and Roma took advantage of it. And I think it's their first win at San Siro in 5 years. I think the commentator said.
Yeah,
it was
they said 5.5 years it's been since they
crazy.
Won there.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm pretty sure the players are going to take it. It's and it helps, especially when it's against a tough club like Inter. But yeah, I just feel as if it was more of Roma capitalizing on their chances versus Inter just being a little bit sloppier, and that's what costed them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No. Sorry, Gianmarco. I just wanted to add on to that. Put your point in because I kind of had something else that I wanted to touch upon. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's it's been a season of this though with Inter. The lapse in judgments is and what's driving me crazy too is Handanovic is your captain and your goalkeeper. If you look at the replay of the second goal, you could see that Inter players are outnumbered the whole way. They're not going to be able to cover every player on that. How are you, as the leader, not yell listen, I'm a big Onana fan, but when he's in there, he is loud, he is boisterous, he's demanding of the team. It feels like Handanovic, he should have recognized that. You're standing there, you could see everybody in front of you. How are you not yelling there? And people wanted to blame Dimarco for not getting back, quick enough on Dybala and that Bastoni was caught out of position. Listen, at the end of the day, everybody is making mistakes. I'm disappointed with a lot of the players on the team. The only ones who I'm okay with currently really are Dimarco and Onana, but it's a collective really, and that's what's frustrating is that 2 years ago the big majority of this team was able to win this Scudetto. Now it's they look like shells in themselves. Even though when they went to play for their countries, they all were great, for their team. So I don't know, it's a head scratcher for sure.
No, and you brought up some good points and kind of partially answered the question I kind of wanted to ask you. And just going back to the goal, and I mean, listen, brilliant individual play, obviously by Dybala for connecting on that. Spinazzola when he's on and he's in that form, it's hard to stop. And I don't know, it's hard to really say and criticize on that goal. Çalhanoğlu gives up that ball in the middle of the park and they're on a quick break. Having somebody out of position is more times than not going to happen, especially in those types of situations. So do I fault into the defense on that situation? No. The free kick, the dead ball, free kicks, those types of things, I can kind of understand your point there, Gianmarco. Again, you kind of answered the question I did want to ask about. Maybe more in this game I was leaning towards, but your tops and flops in terms of players. Who besides Dimarco, I guess it's probably obviously the main top because he is the guy who got the goal. Anybody else that kind of opened your eyes or had somewhat of a positive impact on this game, and who were the ones that were obviously your worst? You kind of summed it up there, but if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, no, the two other guys that from this game specifically that really caught my attention was one, of course, Haslani. I felt like he finally deserved. I mean, I've been screaming for it that he should be on the field. I mean, the kid was able to play for Empoli. He didn't even play the full season. They brought him up from the U19s and he was able to have an impact. And I love that Andrea Azzoli used him not just as a regista but every other position in the midfield. So I don't know why Inzaghi. I mean, this has really been a complaint about him since he was at Lazio, that he's hesitant to play young players, but why he feels that he could only be a vice Brozovic when, at times Çalhanoğlu hasn't played very well. He'd rather go to Mkhitaryan. He'd rather play the worst player I've ever seen.
Gagliardini. Yeah, terrible.
It doesn't make sense to me. So to see him, be able to take this opportunity, and I won't say he was truly incredible or did anything special, but he didn't make any mistakes. You know, he wasn't afraid to challenge his man and push the ball forward and make the simple pass. Yeah, take a shot. I mean, I thought that was going in. I was ready to jump out of my seat.
Yeah.
And the other one is Raul Bellanova. He was the only player I noticed. I mean, granted, he was on the field for maybe 8 minutes, but who had the pace and was willing to take on his man as a wingback. That's been my the biggest thing that's been a drawback this season is a wingback play, which if you play with a 3-man defense, you need your wingbacks to be able to push the ball forward, attack their man, deliver a decent cross. Dumfries is horrendous. Like, I mean, he must have like some type of blackmail on Marotta and Inzaghi to be in the lineup week in and week out. It's the only thing that makes sense. And, you know, Bellanova, that one ball, I mean, I'm so starved of a player to take on his man where I don't even remember who it was that he was dribbling past, but he beats him and then he delivers a cross in, and it wasn't even the best cross, but it did, you know, create some trouble. Of course, Barella and Gozens collided in the box, so nothing was able to happen. But I mean, I was like, how's this kid not playing? You know, Dumfries, every time he's predictable. He won't take on his man. He'll turn back, deliver a pass, and sometimes turn the ball over. And, you know, with Gozens, I mean, I feel like that's a form thing right now where he's just, the confidence isn't there. I don't think the physical aspect is lacking. I just think he has no confidence. You know, he couldn't break the lineup with the way Perisic was playing last year. And now with the way DiMarco's playing now, it looks like he can't break the lineup. So, I mean, it just, a position that needs to be important is a position of great weakness for us right now. And I hope that Inzaghi recognizes that, makes changes before it's too late.
You're talking about the wing backs, and we actually did get a question from your friend Daniel Lucci on Instagram. He did say that
person, but okay.
He said definitely can listen now with that Chooch joining you. But he did ask. But ask him why DiMarco is Inter's best player. So what do you think about DiMarco? I know it's maybe recency bias. As I said, he played really well for Italy. He scored on the weekend. But as a whole, what do you think of him?
Yeah, no, I love that, you know, he used to go to games with the Curva and grew up loving Inter, and now he has the opportunity to play for them. I feel like that's, I mean, that would have been my dream for sure. So to know that he's able to do that, I love that. And he plays with a chip on his shoulder. I think he knows he's not the best player, the most technically gifted player, the fastest player on the pitch. But for 90 minutes, he'll give his all. And it may not be the best.
He plays for the shirt. He plays for the shirt.
100%. Like, that guy will do anything you tell him to. He'll play left center back, even though I think it's crazy to play him back there because he doesn't have the height. But he'll do it just because it's what the team needs in that moment. He will always deliver. I think, in my opinion, he's the best crosser of the ball on the team. I mean, I don't think that's really much of a debate there, to be honest. And he's willing to make those runs in the boxes, go in, you know, into the seams of the defense, cut through and find. Like, you look at the way he scored that goal. You know, he was pushing forward. He got between, you know, the two center backs there and was able to get. I was surprised he even took it with his right foot because I've never seen him shoot with his right. So the fact that he even did that, I was like, all right, this guy's, you know, he's willing to do anything and take the dirtiest, grimiest goals and go with that. So I love him. I mean, that's the only kit I bought this year. I'm waiting till they change the sponsor to buy some others, but that was the first one I knew I had to buy. So
beautiful.
And so he's still pretty young. He's 24. He's gonna be 25.
25. Yeah.
He's gonna be 25 in November. Obviously, the Italian national team left back. There's not the most depth at the position. Obviously, a player like Spinazzola is obviously very good, but he's often injured. And then the backups is Emerson, you know. So what do you think about DiMarco, his future with the national team? Do you think he's a starter? Do you think he's just, him and Spinazzola are just going to maybe just rotate at the position depending on who's hot and whatnot?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Mancini does with the national team. You know, I think Spinazzola is the best one. He should be the one playing when he is healthy. The thing that's going to be the wild card for me is going to be Destiny Udogie. I think eventually he's going to break into the squad. So I feel like DiMarco has a small window to kind of take, you know, any chances he can get. Yeah, so he should try to do that as much as he can now, because I think Destiny's not to sound cheesy, but I think it is his destiny to take over the spot for the team. So, I think he's going to be the guy eventually. So I mean, I guess it also depends too what if Mancini's formation is going forward. If he wants to play 3 at the back still, if you look at even our center back depth, we don't have a lot there. So, and knowing that DiMarco's played there, not that I would ideally would want him there, but if you could have Destiny Udogie and DiMarco kind of overlapping and covering for one another, that could be another weapon in his arsenal. So.
Yeah, I mean, like just looking at the lineup quickly, like obviously it's not the most accurate one, but it's a 3-5-2. And I personally don't think Inzaghi ever changes that because I think he was also running that at Lazio as well, if I'm not mistaken. I can be corrected on that, but I think well, we'll have to wait. We'll have to ask
I know he didn't do it at Inter or Man City, so I don't really remember too much of what he was running at Lazio, to be honest. But
yeah, I mean, like you can also like move DiMarco more inwards, but mind you, that would take Çalhanoğlu's spot. But anyways, I'm getting off topic here. I'm just having some theories here, and I'm just having a hypothesis. But a player obviously that hasn't been. Well, I'm not saying not performing, but he hasn't been making appearances for Inter's Lukaku. We know what injuries and whatnot, but obviously he was injured, so we can't talk about if he would have been a factor or not in this game because that's all hypothetical. Who knows? I think yes, but anyways. But speaking of him, we got a question from Calcio with Julian. I think this affects you and I, so we'll be able to answer this together. Did Inter make the right choice in choosing to sign Lukaku over Dybala?
Not even close, in my opinion. I mean, all summer I was begging for Dybala to come. I feel like him and Lautaro, with the way that they play together on the national team for Argentina, and with the style of football that Inzaghi likes to play, I feel like he would fit the system currently better than Lukaku would. If the main thing was to really allow Lautaro to be that main, focal point as a striker, Dybala doesn't need to be the main guy to be effective. He can play as a second striker. I think that's where he plays his strongest, to be honest. And I feel like with him and Lautaro and with the midfield the way we had, there could have been a lot more free flowing, a lot more triangle passes and one touches and such more fluidity and creativity now than with, I mean, even if Lukaku's healthy, I feel like you're also limited there and you have to play through him to utilize his strengths. Whereas Lautaro, you don't have to run it through him for him to be effective. And if Lautaro's not getting attention Lukaku is, then it's just going to be Lukaku, grabbing all the goals, taking all the penalties, which, I mean, based on last season, I feel like I wish if we had him last year, I think we would have won the title if he took 2 penalties alone. But I think Dybala was an opportunity missed. I hope that the rumors that came out today from Gazzetta aren't true, but if they are, that's an indictment on Inzaghi for wanting to keep Correa over taking Dybala. I think they're just trying to sell newspapers, but if there's any truth to that, that's insanity.